First, we saw he begins the transformation process by saying, with eyes wide open to the mercies of God. In other words, the starting point is what God has done and gratitude for that. The prompt for transformation in Romans 12 is gratitude. And if the means is willpower in the self-help industry, we get in verse 2 through that passive verb I just talked about, we get God and divine help or divine partnership as the means to progress in transformation in Paul's world. Do you see how those juxtapositions are lining up? One is deficit in me, self-help industry. The other is gratitude in me, Paul's letter. One is I got to improve my willpower, self-help industry. The other is I need, excuse me for a second. The other is God's help, right? God's help in changing me. And then the third thing comes in verse 3. We've been focusing on the first two verses of chapter 12 of Romans. Now look at verse 3, because if Paul was participating in the Western version, the kind of European and American version of self-help, he would next go to the finished product, which is a better me. But that's not where he goes. He says in 12:3, I urge you, let me get to it. Here we go. For by the grace given to me, I bid everyone among you not to think of himself or herself more highly than they ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith which God has assigned. For as in one body we have many members, and all the members do not have the same function, so we, though many people, are one body in Christ. So if the end point for American self-help industry is a better me, who can then say, I made progress, I'm better. The end point for Paul is humility that allows us to function within a vital community. Do you see that difference? Transformation for Paul is motivated by gratitude. It's prompted by that. The means to it is collaboration with God or God's infusion of help. And the end of it is my participation in a vital and vibrant community of Christians. Do you see those three differences? I think it's important where Christianity and culture come into tension. It's important to really mark that, not in order to say that way is terrible and our way is great, because arrogance is the opposite of what Paul wants. Notice verse 3. But rather to notice that in our culture, we are drawn to ways of thinking about how change might come that can end up producing individualism and sometimes arrogance. Paul wants the opposite. He wants community and a sense of humility that will help community happen.